So here she is, the one and only Paranormal Karen Rontowski.
Hi, Graham. So a million things have happened since you started the show, and I had to move. I had to move where I was all happy. I had to move to upstate New York to take care of my parents, and I live in a furnished apartment where the Wi-Fi is very sketchy. And I was all ready to go. You remember last time my eyelashes fell off in the middle. But it looks okay now. Let's hope that I don't fade off into the darkness. Even better. Okay, I think I'm put together.
But Karen, if you did fade off into the darkness, considering you're Paranormal Karen, I think that would be very fitting. Like it feels like, and when your eyelashes came off, I just assumed it was some ghost, like just pulling them off. So it all fits. It's all on brand is my point, Karen. So
exactly. And of course the place I move into is haunted, but
I mean, if you live somewhere that wasn't haunted, I'd be a little disappointed, Karen. I'll be quite honest with you.
Exactly. If pictures weren't flying off the wall, it wouldn't be me.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. I'll ask you that question in a second, but go ahead.
I was going to say, I was on your show last time and I got a prediction wrong. And I always like to point out when I'm wrong. And I have to say, it's weird though, is that I did not believe that Biden was going to make it the first year. I thought he was definitely going to die. And this is what's so weird about it. First of all, I think that Kamala, I don't know.
Sure.
She was, the lady that's vice president, her.
Yes, I do know the lady that's vice president. Yeah. Okay.
So I think she was such a disappointment even to the inside. But this is what's weird. Do you remember when he first started, he was really bad. He was way worse at remembering or anything. And then all of a sudden it switched and he's halfway there now. Like, I don't know what happened, but I think maybe they gave him oxygen or something. But I think that I don't know why, but I wanted to say that was one I got wrong. And I'm still suspicious. I think they did that because of me.
Well, I'm sure the Pentagon watches this show and they saw that episode and said, well, we got to give him some experimental drug to help with his dementia. But here's the thing though, Karen, and you freely admit this. You're good with predictions. Your timeline, sometimes your time is not like your strength. So I still think I firmly, even before we had you on the show the last time to predict that, I always have said, I doubt Joe Biden is going to finish his first term because I think mine is not based on tarot cards. Mine is based on the fact that I think he's an old man. And I think he was put there in place knowing his health isn't good. And they really want Kamala Harris to be in there and they're going to match her then with Pete Buttigieg because they're both, Pete Buttigieg was naval intelligence officer. So they literally want an actual CIA person in the White House as their ultimate goal, in my opinion. So,
but I don't think they can use her. I think they were amazed at how they, it's like a comic that's too new. And then you put them on, you bring them on the road with you. And then the first show, you're like, so what are we going to work on tomorrow?
Do I know any other comics in the next city that might be able to kind of come in and take over?
Exactly.
Well, the other thing, so the thing I point out frequently on this show, but before I get into this, I just want to say who is haunting your place?
Well, it's funny. Anyone that wants to listen to my podcast, or on my Patreon, I started a new thing called What's Going On in Utica, because first of all, this is not where I want to be ever, but I had to move up here. I drove cross country. My dog dies right away when I get here. Oh. Although he was 18. I know he was in the Biden years of his life. He was 18. Right. But you know how attached I was to my dog. So I think, first of all, my whole theory was like, I felt like I was like, this land is awful. What's going on here? So I have a whole podcast, just what's going on in Utica. The true crime makes LA look like a playground. It's there's like 17 satanic churches in America. One of them is up in Albany, upstate New York. The Indians in Civil War, they fought with the French, and then they fought with the British trying to get rid of us. So this is like totally cursed land. So, and then Utica was where they sent the mob bosses to retire. So there's been mob murders everywhere. I'm in a house that's, the woman's like 70. And I think so I don't know who's haunting my house exactly, but I believe it's mobsters. People started telling me their ghost stories, and I hear ghost stories all over. And I was listening to them and I was like, I don't want to say anything, but you don't have human ghosts. You have a problem. You have bad stuff in your house, but it's okay if you've been living there a while. So one night I'm home and all the pictures fly off the wall. They're this way down. The second one comes up and knocks them all down. So somebody was trying to get my attention.
Wow.
I think it's a sexy man that wanted to date me.
I think it's probably what it was. It's probably some real slick looking, mob boss that was like, hey,
hey, bada bing.
Hey, maybe I fix your frames, if you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying?
That's it. That's it.
Well, so I want to point out to the audience, like we have done these readings before, and some people are like, oh, I don't know if it doesn't matter if you believe in it or not. To the audience, so I had a very esoteric father, as I've explained before, but maybe some people watching for the first time, they didn't see the previous times you were on the show. So my dad used to do tarot card readings, and my parents very much believed in this. And I don't know, I believe there's an energy out there. I'm not a huge organized religious fan, but I'm not an atheist either. I'm more of a,
what works for
you? The energy, there's a force out there, whatever you want to call it. And so you have predicted several things in my life personally. I remember when I was going through stuff with an ex and she was violent. I had to get a restraining order. You said this lawyer is going to come out of nowhere. I was like, what lawyer? I guess I was like, I got some. And then literally my new entertainment attorney he goes, I don't know if you know, we started working together just for show business stuff. And then all this stuff happened with my ex and the Hollywood Improv. And I was like, oh, and I was like, I had to go to court. And he goes, you might not know this, Graham, but I used to specialize in restraining orders. And I was like, huh? And he came in and was like amazing and really, and so you predicted that. You predicted some other things with you predicted government secrets. You were like, you're going to start doing this podcast with a guy and it's going to really start to take off. And I was like, huh. And then Lee Camp called me a couple months later and was like, hey, let's start doing this. And we've been doing it for a year now. And we're doing shows in London and Europe and stuff. And the audience is really taking off for that. And I love doing it. Government Secrets is awesome. And then we had you on the show like a year and a half ago, and you predicted January 6th. I mean, you said crazy stuff stuff we've never seen before is going to happen. And that's exactly what January 6th was. So the only thing is we did a reading several years ago and you said you're going to meet this amazing woman, and that hasn't happened yet, Karen. That's the only thing. I'm like, what? Stop predicting the collapse of America and maybe hook a brother up. You know what I'm saying? Just find.
Well, you know what, too? There's two things, which is time is a tricky one because there isn't time where we're getting the information. Does that make sense?
Right.
But yes. And then I always wonder, that was very close to someone who was in your life we'll find out. But also, so let me give you a little worldy thing that the worst of the economic and the change in this country is September, October, November. And again, we're going into this like we've never seen before. So get your popcorn and get ready to watch the movies. This is like this is really as big as like when COVID hit and then everybody was like, what's going on? We're kind of in that arena again. And I hate to even say this, but it's like, it could be like assassination attempts or getting, having them go through. But the biggest, it's almost like the revolution is about to hit and November will be the end. And I have a little bit, this is what I also think. If they put Trump in jail, I think that is going to implode this country like craziness.
Yes,
So
I firmly believe that too. Like they probably have enough evidence to arrest him and put him in jail, but I'm like, okay, but when that happens, the FBI is already getting death threats. And I don't know. I mean, these Trump supporters that are doing this have always been like, they support the police and they back the badge, and they've never been targeted by the police before, which is why they've always been like, why is Black Lives Matter all mad? And now you're threatening the FBI. I would warn against that. And I think they're going to act nuts. And then they're going to see this country's police clamp down on them in a way that they didn't think was going to happen, because they got away with it on January 6th. I mean, if we've talked about that, everyone said, like, if that was a Black Lives Matter took over the Capitol, they would have spent 10,000 soldiers would have come down there and cleaned them out. And they let it was all white people just about on January 6th. So they kind of gave them they let him in. They literally let him in and gave him a pass. They're starting to arrest people. Several hundred people have been arrested since. Okay. But they didn't just like wholesale gun them down. That's going to start happening, because if any of these people actually follow through on, when you kill a cop, the police, right or wrong, whatever the reality is, they just say there's no more rules. Now we're going to get you because you took one of ours. That's how American police operate. And you can say that's good or bad or right or wrong, whatever, but that is how they're going to operate. And so that's going to be gnarly. But so let's get into the full reading. So now you're saying
this is how we warm up.
You go
like a wrestler. Okay. I don't even know what I'm doing. I did 5 readings in a row today, 5-hour readings. So I'm a little loopy.
Oh my goodness. Well, yeah. So, so before we get into the actual reading, but your prediction is that the economic stuff is really going to get bad September, October, November. And that's when it's like all bets are off. Things are going to get really crazy, right?
Yep. This is when they talk about food shortages and stuff. I sort of feel like once we get over November, it's not that everything's going to get better. We got a couple more years of like real turnover and crap. But I have a friend that's an astrologer. If you're on TikTok, her name is Astro Lori, and she was also used to be a political what do they call that? Where analyst. She was a political analyst, and then she became an astrologer. So she names names, and she want the while back. She was like, Merrick Garland is coming up with a big announcement. She's very good. And she said this on my podcast wonderfully. She said, if you're a person who grew up without a lot of money or knows how to make it through hard times, you're going to be fine. If you're a little bit bougie or you're going to have trouble. So in other words, this is just like those of us that have gone through hard times will make it. We'll be fine. But I think I think if there was ever a time where a third party is going to come in, this is going to be it. Or a big like Buttigieg. I did a whole I can't see him stepping up, period. Right. And I can't see any of them right now. I don't know who the Democrats think is going to walk out of the darkness. There's nobody right now.
Whoever walks out, like you say, it'll probably be third party. It can't be within the Democratic Party is too corrupt, just like the Republicans, for anybody to come out from that. Unless somebody like flat out defects and says, I'm leaving this party to start my own party, or run, maybe that could happen, but.
Okay. So that's my thing for people. If you're going to hoard food or anything now, do it now.
Okay.
Food or medicine or toothpaste or deodorant or anything that you don't have an expiration date.
Good to know, man. I got a whole thing. I got like a 5-pound bag of rice. I got a lot of stuff. I'm ready to go.